You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast. This is the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me at official Sam Little on Instagram. There's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast, the first one of 2025 and the 50th one in the ongoing odyssey of the Maple Footy Podcast. Quarter century of the 2000s and half century of Maple Footy Podcast. So it's a big day. It is a big day. I do hope that you had a happy new year. If you decide to do anything, or if you just decided to go to bed and wake up in a new year, whatever you did, I hope you did it safely, and I hope that you had a great night. And yeah, the first episode of the year. Starting things off with the Maple Start. Once again, a little bit of a slower kind of week for Canadian football, as it feels like. Not a whole ton went on from the stuff I was following. The one real thing I got for you is Jamie Knight-LaBelle finished an incredible year in football as he got his first goal for the Crew. So it's huge for him. I think it was a good goal if you watch it. Proper center back goal, I would say. But yeah, the first, hopefully, of many more to come. He's enjoyed quite the good season so far, and, of course, made his Canadian debut just a couple months ago. I was at that game, by the way. So hoping for another big year from him coming up. Obviously, his season's like halfway through, but since it's a new year, we always wish everyone well in these years. And yeah, I hope that he kind of continues on this bout of success that he is having. He's young. He's got loads of potential. So hopefully he kind of keeps that going, and we'll kind of see what happens with him in 2025 within the Canadian men's national team setup. I think it could be a big year for him, so let's kind of hope that that is, in fact, the case. But yeah, sadly, of course, like I said, not a whole ton going on for our Canadian boys at the moment. Lots of leagues are kind of going to start back up if they took their little breaks. I know Bundesliga took a break, so, a couple leagues do that. And then, yeah, just because, not everyone plays at the quick breakneck pace of the Premier League. Don't really have a ton to say on some of our boys in Europe. Of course, MLS, CPL, they're both done. So that kind of brings to an end this Maple Start. Jamie Knight-LaBelle, the spotlight was on you, good sir. But we'll move into the Prem recap, starting with match of the match day. Biggest winners of the weekend, biggest underperformers, best performance, moment of the weekend, relegation zone, European places, and title race. And once I do apologize if I say weekend instead of match day. This one I do have a little bit of an excuse for. I know last episode I kind of kept on saying, weekend, when it technically wasn't a weekend. These games, half of them were played on a weekend and half of them were played on like a Monday. So if I do say weekend, do forgive me. It's the first day of the year. We're all kind of in slow motion, it feels like. So let's kind of get going with this, huh? So, of course, let's start with match of the weekend. And there's a few, as there always is. First, we'll kind of start out with Liverpool and West Ham. Liverpool traveled to West Ham and thumped them 5-0. So not really the most two-sided contest, more of like, hey, if you wanna, I guess, see a side get thumped by a good few goals, this was your game to watch this weekend. Liverpool were on a different level to West Ham, if we're being honest here. Wasn't really close. Liverpool kind of showed their quality. West Ham kind of showed their frailties that they've showed really all season. Still not really finding their bearings, finding their footing, however you want to say it. They just don't look great, They are sitting 13th, so not awful, but still not great, especially when you bring in Lopetegui over the summer after parting ways with David Moyes. And then you essentially bring in like a bunch of guys that would have thrived under Moyes, like Fulkrug, And then you just go, yeah, no, we're going to bring in another guy. And it hasn't really worked. And I think that's evident from their performances and from their results. And it was evident and fully on display here. Liverpool just thrashed them, and they really turned the heat up right before halftime. 30th minute, Diaz gets his first. He gets a bit lucky with the break on that goal. I can't tell if he kind of tried to pass it or shoot it, but regardless, kind of ricochets off of the West Ham defense, and it leaves a big opening for Diaz because the ball lands right on his foot. He basically just passes it right into the net, and it's 1-0. And then quickly before halftime, the 40th and the 44th, Gakpo and Salah make it 3. Right after the half, Trent Alexander-Arnold makes it 4. Potentially could be seen the last few months of Trent at Liverpool if some rumors are to be believed. But, not going to get ahead of ourselves on that one. Then, of course, Diogo Jota scores the 5th and final goal of the afternoon. I mean, it wasn't close. They just some weird, also just strange tactical decisions, like playing Wan-Bissaka at left back and Emerson at left wing. Doesn't really make sense. Of course, West Ham kind of get unlucky with Jarrett Bowen coming off. I mean, it was already 4-0 when he came off anyways. I think it's just kind of for the future of their season. It kind of sucks because he is far and away their best player and captain. So it's a shame if he's out injured for the foreseeable future because he is such a great player and is so big for them that it would suck if, say, he's out for a couple weeks to months instead of just like a couple matches, So we'll kind of see on that. But yeah, I mean, look at this Liverpool team. I mean, I've been pretty vocal as to not being super impressed by them, but they've still really separated themselves from the pack. I mean, right now, Arsenal are actually playing Brentford, so technically the weekend's not done because Arsenal's playing Brentford. They're at halftime right now. Arsenal and Brentford are drawing at the moment, and if this result holds, Liverpool are still 8 points ahead of Arsenal. If Arsenal wins, Liverpool are 6 points ahead of Arsenal. But with a game in hand, I hope I did that math right and didn't just make myself look like someone that can't do math. Guys, I host a podcast. I'm not a mathematician. He can't do simple math. But yeah, they're just kind of really separating themselves from the pack. I find obviously still not over. Obviously, we're only halfway through the season, and anywhere between 8 to 6 points isn't the biggest of leads, but that game in hand could be crucial. We don't know. But yeah, I mean, just from back to front, Kelleher stepped in real well for Alisson, but there is no replacement for Alisson, I think. He's the best goalkeeper definitely in the league, and at worst, like top 5 in the world, and even that's probably harsh. I'd probably still put him as probably the best in the world. But if we want to be like really critical, he's at worst top 5. They just look different with him in the team, and I really do maintain the fact that he is the best signing that they made in this like new golden generation. You can say Van Dijk, you can say Salah, you can say Mane, Firmino, all them. I think Alisson, he's what took them to the next level and made them the team that they are. I think he is the most important signing of that kind of I won't say generation, but I guess technically generation. Because a generation doesn't feel like it should be like 8 years, but I guess it is in this case. But yeah, he feels like that most important signing to me, at least. I'm sure that a lot of people would disagree, probably say Salah or Van Dijk, but for me, it's probably Alisson. Andy Robertson, Trent, they looked pretty good on the day. I was critical of Robertson as well. He looked pretty good on the day. I actually am a big fan of Robbo, but yeah, just sometimes maybe doesn't look how he used to, but on the day here, he looked quite good. Van Dijk, one of the best, if not the best, center backs in the league. Joe Gomez sadly does go out injured. It's a shame. He was playing very well, and this seems to just be his luck. Anytime he's playing well, he gets an injury. it sucks. It's a part of the game, sadly, but it does still suck. Gravenberch continued to be one of the top performing midfielders in the league. McAllister, same, same there. Curtis Jones looking to be that player that maybe Liverpool fans were hoping that he would kind of step into and grow into. He's starting to look really good, starting to look real comfortable. Mohamed Salah continued his fine form. Cody Gakpo, to me, continued being one of the guys that flies under the radar. I can't believe Jurgen Klopp had this guy playing as a striker. He is a winger. He's a left winger. He does so well off that left side. Look at what he did in the Euros for the Netherlands. We'll look at what he's doing this season. Cody Gakpo, my goodness, you are a left winger. Don't ever let someone play you at striker again. And Luis Diaz is stepping in fine as the center forward, as Slot doesn't really seem to want to play Darwin Nunez. He seems to really be preferring Luis Diaz there. But yeah, I mean, this Liverpool side, those are a couple of performances now where I've started to go, okay, maybe it's legit. Maybe you were criticizing them too harshly. I don't know. We'll kind of wait and see until the end of the season. I'm still not fully sold on this just yet. I know it's been half a season. How are you not fully sold? I'm not totally sold on them just yet, but definitely this is one of those performances that makes you sit up and go, okay. And then, they had the Tottenham game recently where it's like, okay, they were very good there. They were very good against West Ham. So maybe we are starting to see the best of the best from this Liverpool squad, and maybe they start really, really pulling away. Another game that rather entertained. Brighton, Aston Villa, 2-2. Just kind of a pretty back and forth game, what you want from the Prem, I would say. Some proper performances here as well. Morgan Rogers, Leon Bailey, especially. I thought Leon Bailey was very good here. Morgan Rogers, of course. City got to be kicking themselves that they let him go, right? Like, surely. Like those posts of that you see of like, oh, can't believe Chelsea let these players go, and it's like Kevin De Bruyne, Mohamed Salah, Romelu Lukaku, and so on and so on. I feel like you're going to be seeing that with City, with Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmer, Romeo Lavia, Jadon Sancho. Oh my gosh, Liam Delap. I'm probably missing a bunch of others, but just that young group of guys that they kind of let go in the span of like 3-ish years, where they all kind of just left. So I think that you're kind of going to see that with City in a couple of years, because some of their young boys, Morgan Rogers in particular right now, as we're talking about him, some of them are growing and looking like amazing potential, and could grow into very good players. They're getting it done this season, got it done last season, and, hopefully for many, many, many more seasons to come. We all know the way of the game. Sometimes things don't pan out. But yeah, no, he's looked absolute class this season. Like, for Aston Villa, been one of my... If I was to make a team this season, I would have to find a spot for Morgan Rogers. I think he's been superb. There's been a lot of great performers this year, let's be honest. But Morgan Rogers, I think I would have to try to find a space for him. So keep listening, and at the end of the season, I will do a team of the season, and Morgan Rogers may just be on there. But yeah, no, I mean, Aston Villa, they've had their ups and downs this season, but it looks like they're kind of starting to get that form back under Unai Emery. They sit in 9th, but just 3 points off of 5th, 6 points off of 4th. So definitely still very much in the hunt to get back into Europe for next season, as they kind of got back in Champions League last season. I think they got a good squad. They have a very good squad. I think they've got some depth as well. And I think it's just a testament to rebuilding this club to what it could be, to what it once was even. You never know. But looking at Brighton, of course, kind of like Villa, have had their ups and downs this year, but currently, much like Villa, they're in 10th, just behind Aston Villa, 5 points off of 5th. So also kind of still in that European race with half the season left to go. Brighton have been a factory of just talent over the last number of years, whether it's backroom staff, managers, or on the actual pitch. They have had very, very good players coming through there. And Lamptey steps up on the day, but yeah, a lot of different players really played their part. Like their goalkeeper, Verbruggen, Netherlands, 22 years old. Is this his first season? No, this is his second season with Brighton. Apologies. But yeah, he stepped up, made a couple of saves. I know, he let 2 get scored past him. That's all you ever hear about goalies. You know, they can make 1,000 saves in one game, and you only ever hear about the 2 that they conceded. But yeah, Lewis Dunk still doing the bits at the back, 33 years old. Feels like he's been around forever. But yeah, still doing the bits there. But anyways, yeah, no, this was a very back and forth game. I mean, early on, Brighton gets the goal, makes it 1-0, and then Ollie Watkins converts a penalty. Then right after halftime, Morgan Rogers, that name again, he gets a goal. And then just 10 minutes from time, wow, that wasn't right. Tariq Lamptey, there we go. He gets the goal to tie it up, and they both share the points. So I think it's a good back and forth game. A lot of action in this one. I think it's a lot of fun if you want to watch it. And I mean, you can't go wrong with a Morgan Rogers special. You would think that he's like a Chelsea player the way I back Morgan Rogers on this podcast here. But no, I think he's just a brilliant player, honestly. And finally, yep, we knew this one was coming. This one pains me, but it is Ipswich and Chelsea, 2-0 Ipswich. As someone that has been kind of the rooting Ipswich on to stay up, I just knew that this was going to come back to bite me and they would take points off of Chelsea. I just knew it was going to happen, because why wouldn't it? But in all fairness, they definitely deserved the win on the day. Now, I don't think Chelsea was as bad as I think some fans have made them out to be. On the day, I think they got unlucky a couple times. That penalty, of course, never a penalty, in my opinion. You can sit down with me for 2 hours explaining how it's a penalty. It's a clear dive, in my opinion, from Liam Delap, another one that I've really backed on the podcast here. I think it was a clear dive. Great penalty, though. I mean, it was a perfect penalty. I don't think any keeper in the world stops that one. And then Amari Hutchinson, I literally looked at my dad who I was watching this game with, and I literally said, right as it started, he is scoring today. Former Chelsea player. Of course he's going to score today. Right after he scored, I said, yep, of course he did. But yeah, no, want to give Ipswich their flowers before I kind of start talking about Chelsea a little bit. Finally, I think they get what they deserved. They get a win, and they get a win for the first time in 22 years at home in the Premier League, of course. And it's massive for them. Of course it is. You could tell how much it meant to the players, how much it meant to the fans. It was a great atmosphere. The players were up for it. But yeah, they were playing how they've played for a majority of the season, just really pressing, trying to be creative on the ball, trying to get their best players like Hutchinson and Liam Delap on the ball, doing the bits defensively, really getting stuck in. But just honestly, more often than not, they've found themselves on the losing end rather than the winning end. But on the day here, they actually get what they deserve, I found, and that was the 3 points. So it's a big, big win, I think, for Ipswich. I would love to see them build on this now and kind of take that throughout the rest of the season and potentially stay up. I think it'll be difficult. I think it will be difficult, but it's not impossible. I mean, Everton, Wolves, and Palace and Manchester United are all within touching distance here. I'm sorry, I had to add in Manchester United, but they're all in touching distance, honestly, of Ipswich. So it is doable. It is doable. But I do kind of want to talk about Chelsea just a little bit. So sorry, I will try to make this a little bit brief. Yeah, are the wheels falling off? I don't know. I think that you're just kind of seeing what this Chelsea side actually is. Probably not title contenders. I think potentially people that were saying it were maybe a bit guilty of kind of jumping the gun on that. I know I myself kind of got swept up in it a little bit, saying maybe they were title contenders. They probably are since they're in second place at the time, of course. But yeah, no, I think they're more so top 4 contenders here. And I think we're seeing that, once again, I do feel as though Jorgensen was hard done by the penalty. I actually think he had a good game outside of that. Not much he could have done about the Hutchinson goal. And then made a couple of good stops, I found, mostly on Liam Delap, seemed to be everywhere on the day. What I didn't understand was playing Disasi at right back. I actually don't dislike Disasi. I think he's a solid squad player, center back. Center back, the key word there. He's not right back, especially when you have 3 on the bench. I understand not wanting to play Reece James. I do get it. He's coming back from injury. But you have Malo Gusto on the bench, and the young guy, his name escapes me right now. But yeah, you have 3 right backs on the bench, and you don't play any of them. The rest of the back line looked pretty shaky, I will admit, on the day. Moises Caicedo, of course, was everywhere. What I really didn't like, though, was João Felix being pulled off. Why? He was outside of Cole Palmer, of course, because I thought Cole Palmer had a good game. Outside of Cole Palmer, Felix was like the only guy that looked like anything was going to happen through. He's a bit unlucky with the offside goal there. It's a great ball and a great finish. Of course, linking up Palmer and Felix. It's a shame. I don't know why he was the first one brought off, especially then to play Nkunku at left wing and Jackson through the middle. It didn't make sense if you wanted to bring on a left winger. At least if you're going to pull Felix off, at least bring on like Sancho to play the left wing position. But anyways, I will continue on the tangent of Chelsea if I stay on it. We are only on match of the weekend here. But let's move into biggest winners of the weekend. And, of course, usual suspects. By the way, update. Arsenal are beating Brentford 3-1 as of recording this. So looking like Arsenal will be in second place come the end of this match day. Unless there is a big turnaround for Brentford. But yeah, biggest winners. I mean, usual suspects. I won't keep too much time on them because I say them, I think, almost every single week. Liverpool, 5-0 over West Ham, retaining top spot again. What else is there to say, really? They're continuing to just find, here they didn't really need to find a way to win. They didn't really have to grind out the result. It was kind of pretty easily. But finding ways to win, starting to become goal machines at the moment between Tottenham and West Ham games. So yeah, I'm like, what more is there to say about them being in the winners of the weekend category? I think another big winner was actually Nottingham Forest. Another big win, 2-0 over Everton. Morgan Gibbs-White once again with a big goal. Chris Wood continuing his fine goal-scoring form. I believe that's either 11 or 12 this season for him. Who would have thought that? Shout out Chris Wood, I guess. But yeah, they continue in the top 4 race, and at a point in the weekend, of course, now that Arsenal will go second, Nottingham Forest will drop down to third, but for a large portion of this weekend, we're second. Who would have thought Nottingham Forest would have been second in the league at any point this season? Not me, that's for sure. But yeah, no, they've just kind of went about their business, really, this season. Taking big wins, getting big results, having players perform real well. Alanga, Gibbs-White, Wood, Ola Aina, Nico Williams. The list goes on, honestly. Sells, I think he's been probably one of the best goalkeepers in the league this year. They've been terrific. And it's just really nice to see a team that you don't usually see up there, still up there. So, and especially breaking down Everton, who's had a good run of games recently with they drew Arsenal, drew City, and drew Chelsea. So you're facing a team in a good little bit of momentum here, and to kind of just go out at Goodison Park, of course, not the easiest place to travel. And you win convincingly. So they got to be in the winners of the weekend, And then finally, Newcastle over Manchester United. Big win for Newcastle at Old Trafford. Game was done and dusted in the 20th minute. Basically 2 of the exact same goal. I think it kind of speaks to United's lack of being able to kind of adapt. And, of course, kind of Newcastle's quality. There was pictures of Amarin at the end of the game. He just looks clueless, and that's not a slight on him. I think he just genuinely doesn't know what to do and how to get the best out of these guys. I think he's realizing how tough a task he has at hand here. it's not going to be easy for him. But Newcastle, kind of like the Brentfords, Villas, Forests, all those teams, kind of just going about their business and getting it done, getting big results like this one, because regardless of what you want to say, Manchester United is still one of the biggest clubs in the league. Getting it done at Old Trafford, I think that's absolutely massive for them. This result keeps them in fifth, just off of the Champions League places, but still right in those Europa League places. So I think it's going to be a frantic finish to this top four race, guys, in the next half a season. But yeah, no, Newcastle have to be my winners of the weekend. And of course, I said Newcastle's going to be my last one. Didn't realize I didn't say Ipswich. Ipswich, of course, once again, kind of like Liverpool, not going to keep too much time on them because I already talked about Ipswich. But yeah, massive win. It's a massive, massive win. Their third of this season against a top four challenging team, I should say. And it's huge. It really is huge. Their first win at home. You know what that's got to mean to the supporters and the players. You could tell how much it meant. And yeah, just hopefully they can build on this and potentially stay up. But now we'll move into the underwhelmers of the weekend, and keeping on brand with Ipswich, we'll say Chelsea. Once again, since I already talked about the game, you kind of know why they're here. Not great. I think Enzo Maresca, I don't want to say he's being exposed, because I do think he is a good manager, but I think you're kind of seeing some of his weaknesses on display, and that's totally expected. This is his second season as the top guy. So it's to be expected. These growing pains are to be expected. You're not always going to be, second or first or third. Sometimes you're going to get bested by a team that was sitting 19th in the league, and it's going to sting. And now it's up to you. It's up to him now to go out. I believe Crystal Palace is their next game, and to try and get something from that, because as I've been alluding to in the last few episodes, it feels like Chelsea's kind of in that storm of bad results, and now we're going to have to see how Enzo Maresca gets them out of it. This is 3 in a row in the league without a win, so he's going to have to try and get Chelsea out of this kind of storm of just poor form. And moving into another underwhelmer of the weekend, a team that I already mentioned, Manchester United. I feel like I mention them every single week at this point, but it's getting to a point of comical, really, of just like how, like, as I kind of mentioned, Amarin, he just looks like he doesn't know what to do. And I don't mean that as like, he's a bad manager. I just think he's just deeping the task that he has at hand here. And I think he's realizing it's not going to be a fun one. Huge rebuild, I think, is needed for Manchester United. And that's not just talking about players. I think it's talking about the backroom staff. I think it's talking about the guys up top. I think it's talking about the stadium. It's everything. This club needs to essentially almost be blown up and just restart, because there's so many issues here. And it's not going to be, because now we're in the transfer window. It's not like it's like, okay, well, we'll just go out and sign, I don't even know who's on the market right now. We'll go sign Florian Wirtz. We'll go sign Jamal Musiala. We'll sign Bastoni, and we'll sign DeMarco, and that's going to solve all of our problems. It's not that. It really isn't that. There's so much more that needs to be done here, and you could honestly probably do an entire series of what is wrong with them at the moment. I mean, the only thing I don't really like that Amarin did was you brought off Zirkzee in the 30th minute. Like, really? I think that's just embarrassing. He's a young striker. You're really embarrassing him at that point. Did the change need to be made then? I don't know. Like, I'm all for managers, like, making the changes, but it did nothing for them before they went into halftime. You bring them off in the 33rd minute. You still go down halftime 2-0, and you brought on Kobbie Mainoo. And I actually really rate Kobbie Mainoo. He's not going to score you a goal, Not that, at least Zirkzee is an attacker, so like maybe he might, not that he's had a great season or nothing, but I don't know. I just don't really like when managers do that. It feels like an embarrassment tactic, and it doesn't usually work well. So I don't know. Just for seeing a young striker get pulled off like that, I don't really like it. That could just be me. Maybe I'm just too soft. I don't know, but I just don't really like that. But I think another kind of underwhelmer of the weekend. I've never really mentioned the underwhelmers of the weekend just because, like, it kind of goes without saying, but I do have to finally say Southampton. They've just been so poor this season, and I do kind of feel for them because, like, they don't have a Premier League caliber squad, but I can't just keep on not saying them in underwhelmers of the weekend because sometimes you do have to be called out, and that's me. I'm calling you out, Southampton, because I always say, I feel for the fans because it's just got to be so tough, like, tuning into these games, and then you see Aaron Ramsdale in your net, and you kind of just know that the game's done. I'm sorry. I can't even keep a straight face on that one. Sorry. That was just a jab at a former Arsenal player. That's all it was. But seriously, you just kind of, like, go to these games because the travel's got to be crazy. And or if they're at home on this day, they were, of course, traveling. But you go and it's just kind of like, what is there to be, like, happy about watching this team? Like, yeah, Dibbling, he looks like a proper, like, he could have some potential, but if he's got potential, he's probably going to be sold, Kyle Walker-Peters, I do like him, but, like, it's not like he's a game changer, all due respect. And then you just look at everyone else and it's like, yeah, they're championship level quality. Aaron Ramsdale quickly approaching his third relegation on his CV. It's just not good. Like, Ugochukwu's only on loan from Chelsea, and he's not even really starting. Cameron Archer, once again, kind of shows promise, but, like, is he going to really be is he going to be the game changer? It's nice to see Adam Lallana coming to finish his career, but this is a 36-year-old Adam Lallana. He's not like that prime Liverpool Adam Lallana that we saw for years, kind of really an exciting player. He's now just kind of like, he came back here as like a fairy tale end to just be like, hey, I'm coming back here, It's probably not going to be an easy season, but I just want to finish my career with the team that I started with, and I respect that. I love when players do that, but yeah, it's just really tough, like, watching this. It's tough as a neutral watching the Southampton team just every single week just go out there and, like, get battered, and then I can only imagine what the fans feel, so I kind of have to put them in underwhelmers here because, like I said, I just haven't, because it's kind of been expected. But at a certain point, when you've been rooted to the bottom of the table, you're marching to be one of the worst teams in Premier League history, you kind of got to be mentioned at some point or another. But enough with the negative. Let's get into the positive. Let's talk about performance of the match day. Firstly, we're traveling back to Aston Villa. No, I'm not saying Morgan Rogers. I'm saying his teammate, Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins stepped up. He stepped up big. He did. John Duran was suspended for this game, so they played Ollie Watkins, who's been in and out the lineup, with Duran, of course, being in some fine form. But Ollie Watkins, who's had a pretty up and down season, steps up, scores a big time penalty, and creates the Morgan Rogers goal as well. I think it's huge. I think it really is a big performance from Ollie Watkins. Of course, Aston Villa draw on the day, so not much more is made of it because, they didn't win. But I don't think his performance should be overshadowed by that. I think he stepped in big, and, we talk about Ollie Watkins, like, not having the best of years. He's still on 8 goals and 4 assists in the Premier League this season. That's not a terrible haul for a striker that's been in some inconsistent form. But on the day, he was not inconsistent. He was one of the best players on the pitch and one of my performances of the weekend. Another big performance comes from a striker. It is Liam Delap of Ipswich. Yes, the penalty never should have been a penalty. I will never get over that. But it was a huge performance from him, let's be real. He was all over the pitch, doing the bits defensively, getting up there, really being the only guy outside of Amari Hutchinson that looked like he was going to score a goal. Any chance that Ipswich had was either created by or taken by Liam Delap. And yeah, just even his high pressing, like not giving Chelsea defenders time to breathe on the ball. He had great battles with Tosin on Chelsea. And of course, gets his goal, greatly taken penalty, ending I believe it was 6-game goalless drought. He just looks great. If Ipswich do end up going down, I don't think Liam Delap will be going down with them. I think there will be many suitors for him. He is showing his quality. He's showing that he's not just a good striker, that he's also got a pretty good game to him as well. Of course, still a lot of development to be had, being that he is 21 years old. He is in my opinion, has a lot of potential and could be a massive player in the future. Another big performance, you could probably say anybody from Liverpool, really. I could say the entire team. So I will kind of give them we will say Liverpool, but we're kind of going to zero in on a couple of players and give them their flowers. Trent Alexander-Arnold, thought he was very good on the day. Good defensively, not that he had a whole ton to do, but as a right back, that always gets slanted for his defending. Potentially not being the best, he kind of showed that he can be a good defender, guys. Imagine that, one of the best right backs of the last 10 years. He can actually defend sometimes. Imagine that. Cody Gakpo, I've sang this guy's praises a couple of times this season. And to me, been one of Liverpool's best players, but has gone under the radar. I think he's been superb. Gets a goal. Does he leave with an assist as well? ? I'm not sure he does. He does not, but gets his goal. Once again, I've sang his praise. I think he's been phenomenal this season. Gravenberch, want to give him some flowers. I think he's also been very good this season. If I was making a team of the season, kind of like how I said for Morgan Rogers, I think I'd have to find a place for Gravenberch. I think he's been that good. And then, of course, Mohamed Salah, numbers machine. I think he was running the show here. He's now got, it's kind of crazy, 17 goals, 13 assists in 18. They haven't even played 19. Liverpool hasn't even played 19. He's got 30 direct goal contributions in 18 games. That's kind of absurd, especially then when you kind of hear all the Ballon d'Or discourse that's still going on, and you're hearing like Vinicius getting robbed and all that stuff. His numbers aren't even close to this over a whole season. Salah could end the season now and I think have a better tally than Vinicius did in his quote-unquote like robbed amazing Ballon d'Or season. Anyways, sorry, I just hate the disrespect around that Ballon d'Or for Rodri. Not that I'm a huge Rodri fan, just like the shots that are being taken at this guy, I really don't understand. But anyways, getting off topic, Mohamed Salah, very good performance, having an unreal season. One of the best players in the league this season. I think that most people could agree on that. Anybody who's watched it, at least. But yeah, just wanted to give a good few Liverpool players some little shout outs there. But with that being said, we'll move into our moment of the weekend. And one of my moments actually is just a goal, because I thought it was a really good goal. Chris Wood's goal against Everton. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Because it's a long ball. I don't know who sends it to Wood. I can't remember, but it's a great long ball. And then Wood heads the ball to Elanga, who then heads the ball back into open space for Chris Wood to run onto. And Chris Wood takes it first time. And I think it just kind of sums up the season that Chris Wood is having, because who would have thought that Chris Wood would be one of the top strikers in the Premier League this season? He's now on, let me clarify. He does have 11 goals. Sorry, I said it was 11 or 12 earlier. It's a great goal and a great moment, because that just like feels like one of those goals that like every time now like Nottingham Forest and Everton are going to play, it feels like that goal is just going to be shown of like some great, goals, as they sometimes do. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like on socials when they're promoting the game and whatnot. Like it feels like that goal is going to be shown. It's just such a good goal. And I just want to put that in the moment of the weekend, because it's a phenomenal goal. Go watch it if you have not watched it. Seriously, you won't regret it. It's rather nice. But then moving into kind of a more like traditional moment of the weekend, Streit Larsson scores for Wolves in the 87th minute to draw the game against Tottenham. Big result for Wolves, kind of once again, another one of those guys that's struggled with consistency, who I do still back to stay up, by the way. I'm not changing that. It's not changing until the end of the season. It's not changing, guys. But it's massive, when you are a team that is trying to rack up points. You need to find ways to rack up points. And they did, credit to Wolves. They didn't stop all game. Tottenham's, again, they give it up the last few minutes. But it's a great goal from Strut Larson to really get Wolves something out of this game, and something is better than nothing. Of course, 3 is better than 1, but 1 is better than none. So it's a big moment, I would say, for them getting that late goal. It's big because Wolves have been on the end of that so many times this season that it's nice that they are now the ones doing it to someone. And not to keep bringing up Ipswich Chelsea, but I do have to put Ipswich's just, you could probably say 3 different moments. The Delap penalty when he scored it, not when he won it. The Omari Hutchinson goal, or just the full-time whistle being blown. The stadium erupts for that full-time whistle. It's a great moment. It really is. First, like I said, first win in 22 years in the Premier League at home. It doesn't get much better than that, I don't think, for those Ipswich fans. That felt like they had just won the FA Cup or the league or had saved themselves from relegation. That's really what it felt like. It felt like so much emotion and jubilation in that ground. I just hope that those Ipswich fans had a very good time that night, because I'm sure they did. So that's kind of what the game's about. That's what the moment of the weekend is about. And as much as it kills me that it's against Chelsea, I can also sit back and go, it is a great moment. But with these moments being talked about, let's talk about the relegation zone now. Surprise, surprise, Southampton's still at the bottom. Just above them, that's all the time I'm giving to Southampton. Just above them are Leicester. And to me, this bottom 2 looks right. They, to me, have been the 2 worst teams in the league this season. So far, at least. Leicester just look out of ideas. They look uninterested. They look like they're content to just go back down. It's a shame that this will probably be Jamie Vardy's last season in the Premier League if Leicester do go down. I can't imagine he has, say, this season, another season, and then say they get promoted, another season in the Premier League. I just don't see it if they go down. It's a shame. I think that he probably deserves a little bit better of a send-off. Who knows? Maybe he goes for another 10 years, but that's just me kind of think logically. He is pushing 40 at this point. So it's a shame to kind of see potentially that this could be his last season in the Prem, unless Leicester stay up. You never know. But yeah, they just look out of ideas. They don't look interested, look content to play championship football. And if that's the case, then just, that's the case. And then above them is Ipswich, who I've talked about in depth this episode. It's a big win for them. They're 1 point off of safety, 2 points off of Everton even, who are 2 places outside of safety. So I think it's pretty big for Ipswich. We could be seeing a pretty good relegation battle going for the next couple weeks. Who knows? Maybe within 5 weeks the relegation race is done, and we just know the 3 teams that are going down. Above them, of course, Wolves, who, like I had also mentioned, big result, I would say, against Tottenham. Like I said, 1 is better than none, and for a good portion of that game, it looked like they were getting none, but they get 1. And as someone that has been championing Wolves to stay up, I would be very pleased if Wolves do end up staying up. Above them are Everton, who kind of falter here. Kind of a shame, because they kind of stitched together a nice little run of 3 draws against 3 big teams. And then, of course, Nottingham Forest proved to be their kryptonite. Everton, I think they have shown that they can stay up. I do know at the start of the season, I did say maybe this was the year that Everton do go down, and it still could be. If I had it my way, I guess it probably would be Everton, because I want Ipswich to stay up. I've been really saying that Wolves will stay up, so really just logistically speaking, I guess it has to be Everton that goes down, along with looks like Southampton and Leicester. So I guess I shouldn't be giving Everton any flowers from now on. But yeah, no, it just is a shame, because they kind of, like I said, string together those 3 results. Pretty good results, I would say. Of course, 3 draws, not nothing to write home about, but when you kind of look at it in the context of it's Arsenal, Chelsea, and City all in a row, I do think it is something to maybe write home about. But then, like I said, you come against Nottingham Forest, and they don't do great. And then you're kind of just back to being 2 points within relegation. All that work over the last 3 match days kind of feels like not a waste, but maybe not as good as it really you would have wanted it to have felt. And then just above Everton are Crystal Palace by 3 points, who are 5 points outside of relegation. But I say Crystal Palace because Everton has a game in hand on Palace. Of course, that game in hand is against Liverpool, so it may not be the most positive for Everton, but they do usually turn up for Liverpool. And then just above Palace is Manchester United. Sorry, I have to take the shots, guys. I'm a Chelsea fan, and last year I was a Chelsea fan during that time where we were really bad. So I gotta get my shots in while I can, because you never know when that could change. But looking at the European race, as I kind of say every week, it feels like it goes all the way from like 10th to 4th. You got Brighton, Villa, Fulham, Bournemouth, City, and Newcastle all within this like race here. And City, by the way, who have been like notoriously bad, are like only 4 points outside of top 4. So this is why I've been saying Manchester City feels like that team that they're gonna turn it around, or they at least could turn it around. And yeah, I mean, they get the draw against Everton last time out, but then they get the win against Leicester here. It could be now that is the turning point. I know we said that when they beat Nottingham Forest, but this one could be. We'll have to wait and see, of course. But yeah, considering that they've been just really bad this season and are only 4 points off of top 4, do we put it past Manchester City now going on their typical 20-game win streak? No, I don't, honestly. So, for the sake of the league, for the sake of making it interesting, I hope they kind of don't. But I think it's going to happen. I think that they are going to sneak their way back into the top 4. But then, yeah, you got your Fulham who gets a big draw. You got Villa who got a draw. Newcastle gets a big win. And Bournemouth were the ones that drew Fulham, I believe, off the top of my head. Yes, it was them. So a lot of draws going on and going around in the Premier League. But I think it's indicative of the level that we're at right now. I think there's a lot of teams that are on even playing field, and you're kind of seeing that with the points, like I said, between 5th and like 10th. There's 5 points separating Brighton, who are on 10th, and then Newcastle, who are in 5th. So it kind of is indicative of, I think, the level of play that the Prem is at the moment, and it just shows you how many different teams have just such quality. And then, of course, in the top 4, you got Chelsea, who falter again. I think they're going to need to really turn this around, as all the other teams around them are kind of looking like they're kicking on, whereas Chelsea looks like they're kind of sinking at the moment. Then you got Nottingham Forest, who, once again, I've given them their praises this episode. And then you got Arsenal, who right now are still leading Brentford, by the way. You're getting live updates through this Maple Footy one. But yeah, they're 3-1 up in the 87th minute. It would take a pretty bad mess up here to kind of not see this one out. So that's kind of how the European race is still shaping out. And then, of course, you got the title race, who right now it's Liverpool in first, and then just everybody else. Arsenal are the closest to them, 6-point difference. But, of course, Liverpool still had that game in hand. Yeah, Liverpool, I think that they could really just separate themselves from the pack if they really just start ringing in results. I really do think they could separate themselves, but it is the Prem. Anything can happen, but right now Liverpool have been leading the pack for a good portion of this season so far, so we'll kind of see how that shapes up in the next half of the season, because there is still a whole half of the season to be played. But yes, of course, with all that being said, that does bring to an end this kind of more lengthy Maple Footy podcast. Looking at the time, we've been going for about 48 minutes now, but I do hope that you enjoyed. Thank you for ringing in 2025 with the Maple Footy Podcast. It's hopefully going to be a big year for us here, and we'll be celebrating our 1 year in May. So I know we're only in January, but yeah, we're quickly creeping up to our 1 year anniversary. But follow me everywhere. You know the drill. More episodes, of course, coming. As I kind of said, I know I adopted that Tuesday release schedule, but with the Prem now scattering games, thanks guys, it's kind of going to be going up after the match days, whether that's a Tuesday or not. So it'll be about finding the time to do these, and then, of course, getting them up as soon as possible. But yeah, so no proper release schedule at this very moment. Like, I know I adopted the Tuesday, but the Tuesday, I'm not going to talk about, like, I could be talking about, like, 2 different match days if I keep it on a Tuesday. So I don't want to do that. It'll kind of just be when the match day's done, we're going to talk about the match day, whether that's a Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whatever. You get the drill. But thank you so much. I really do appreciate you listening if you've listened all this way. And until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates at Official Sam Little on Instagram, where I am most active. And until next time, live, laugh, little.